Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
House prosecutors are pushing for a Senate summons on Vice President Sara Duterte.
A lawmaker is pushing for the creation of a digital council of the Philippines to combat disinformation.
The Department of Transportation reiterates its call for a dialogue with Manibela about public transport modernization program.
And the Department of Health reports that measles cases in Metro Manila have tripled. In response, the DOH aims to immunize over 400,000 children in the region.
First in the news, OFWs in Europe have threatened to withhold remittances as protests against the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. The palace urged them to remain calm, saying their families would also be affected. Here's the report.
Some OFWs in Europe are reportedly planning a zero remittance week in protest against the arrest and transfer of former President Rodrigo Duterte to the International Criminal Court. The protest, said to be initiated by the Measles, Croatia chapter, is scheduled to take place from March 28 to April 4. There is also a growing call to bring Duterte back to the Philippines, confirmed by an official from the Measles, Croatia group. They specifically chose March 28 as it coincides with Duterte's 80th birthday.
I hope that our respected President of the Republic of the Philippines, His Excellency Ferdinand Marcos Jr., will hear us, OFWs. Please send our beloved President Duterte back home. Please. I have nothing against you. Just please send him back home. This is the call for all OFWs around the world.
Meanwhile, Malacanang is urging OFWs in Europe to remain calm, warning that withholding remittances would impact not only the country's economy but also their own families.
Kung hindi po sila magkakaroon at hindi sila magre-remit ng kanilang mga maaaring ipadala sa mga pamilya nila, hindi lamang po gobyerno maapektuhan, pati ang kanilang mga pamilya.
The palace also emphasized that it is simply following legal processes.
Sana po ay malaman din po nila na ang pamahalaan at ng gobyerno ay tumutupad lamang sa ating batas. At may mga Pilipino rin naman po na nagreklamo, nag-file ng complaint laban sa dating Pangulong Duterte. Sana'y maging patas din po sila sa kanilang pananaw.
For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
We respect their sentiments. We also respect what they do, no? That they're far away from home, earning their keep for their families here. But you have to remember, and I hope they understand na yung gagawin nilang yan to hold back remittances will not only affect yung government, no, but the whole nation as a whole. Yung mga ibang madaming tao.
Pamilya nila mismo, di ba? Walang mapagagastos.
Pamilya nila. Pero isipin mo ha, yung government relies on its income to fund ayuda programs, PhilHealth, a lot of other projects. Now you hold that back, you're setting back the government a lot of millions of pesos in remittances because what? You want a personality back home. This plan of theirs will not bring the former president back home. It will just simply debilitate the country's economic standing. Yung income niya, mapahihirapan mo eh.
Well, I remember kasi noong 2013, actually sabi nga, this is not the first time that OFWs have used their financial power, sabi nga nila, to stage a protest. Back in 2013, nagkaroon din ng mga ng ganitong klaseng protest, dahil doon sa pagtutol ng mga OFWs before on how the government was handling the public funds, yung pork barrel system, etc. So nangyari yan all over the world, yung mga OFWs from Australia, New Zealand, Taiwan, UK, saan pa, Hong Kong, yan. Nangyari daw yan noong 2013. So, yun yung siguro nakita nila from then, baka pwede ulit gawin ito. Pero yun nga, tulad na napag-uusapan natin dito, ay hindi lang yung buong bansa natin maapektuhan, of course, and yung mga families nila kasi hindi sila makakapagpadala ng mga
as I said
ang tawag dito, ng mga panggastos, ganyan. Tayo pa naman kasi tayo sa all over the world, top 4 tayo sa most, ang country natin, yung nakaka-receive ng mga remittances. Top 4
Well, as I said nga kanina, it affects the whole nation as a whole. For what? Because you want one man sent back home. Pero it's not fair naman to others who have nothing to do with what happened. Di ba? Yung mga nag-grind lang dito daily, day in, day out, pumapasok 9 to 5. Oo, you guys are grinding away from your families and it's hard to be away, but you are living in Europe, which the comfort zones, the safety is different from the Philippines. Kami, we have to deal with realities back here na medyo mahirap nga dito, and then you will withhold money pa for a political motive, for a political reason. That is not fair to anyone at all. Kasi hindi naman lahat ng Pilipino dito ay ang nagpadala kay former President Duterte sa Hague, Netherlands.
Yeah, oo.
Hindi naman the country as a whole. Tapos you make the country suffer.
Totoo.
That is totally unfair.
I mean, may mga nababasa din naman ako doon na hindi naman lahat ng OFWs will do that. No? Only, of course,
Oh, no, it's a
yung
certain
supporters.
groups naman, certain groups. Right now, there's still a silent majority that's not hasn't spoken up much yet. But we'll see right after the birthday of the president on the 28th, former president.
Marami kasi mga planned activities.
Planned
yan
activities.
But anyway, in other news, House prosecutors have requested Senate President Jesus Cordero to issue a writ of summons for Vice President Sara Duterte, seeking to require her response to the articles of impeachment. Here's a report.
House Minority Leader Nonoy Libanan led House prosecutors in filing a motion urging Senate President Jesus Cordero to compel Vice President Sara Duterte to respond to the articles of impeachment within 10 days of receipt. The Senate accepted the motion on Tuesday morning. According to the calendar released by Escudero, the presentation of the articles of impeachment is set for June 2, followed by the issuance of summons on June 4.
June 4 is not 10 days. Napakalayo po niyan. Parang ginigising lang namin, ito yung rules ninyo po. Kung may power sila o wala, we are not pressuring. We are doing our job.
Joining Libanan in filing the entry with motion to issue summons in the Senate were fellow prosecutors One Rider Party List Representative Raj Gutierrez, Deputy Majority Leader Paulo Ortega, and Assistant Majority Leader Jay Conghon. The prosecutor stood firm on the Senate's constitutional mandate to begin the impeachment trial of the Vice President forthwith as soon as possible. It has already been nearly 2 months since February 5, when the House transmitted a verified impeachment complaint against VP Sara Duterte to the Senate. The prosecutors signed the motion on March 14 but delayed filing it as they believed the Senate was on break.
Apparently, nagkaroon po sila ng hearing last Thursday nung committee ni Senadora Amy. Ibig sabihin, nagtatrabaho pa rin po ang Senado.
Currently, VP Sara is in The Hague, Netherlands to assist her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, who is facing crimes against humanity charges at the International Criminal Court. If the Senate issues a summons while she is still abroad, Duterte may submit her response through the nearest consulate.
Well, the
We all
expected,
know naman kasi yung magiging schedule ng di ba?
yeah, the
Ng,
expected issuance
impeachment sa July.
of summons is sa 4th of June. Pero ang in-express kasi nitong grupo from the prosecution panel of the impeachment case is 10 days upon dapat the receipt of the of the articles of impeachment. So parang minamadali
That's
na nila.
standard response.
Standard response. So yun naman ang reklamo nila, but we all know naman na this impeachment trial will surpass this Congress and will move on to the next Congress.
Kasi
And
yun ang sinabi ni Senator Cheese.
Medyong volatile yan, medyong malulugi daw dyan ang in lower house, yung House Prosecution Panel, because if may mawala 1 or 2 of them na hindi manalo, hindi pagpalari na ma-re-elect, masisira ang total strategy nila.
Yeah, oo.
Because naka-ano na daw sila, may pocket group sila within the prosecution panel, may naka-assign ng specific parts of the prosecution. Ngayon, kung mawala ang isa, they're going to have to retrain the new congressman.
Kaya nga 'di ba sabi ni I forgot her name, yung sumikat nung Judita.
Si
Congresswoman. Sabi niya sana manalo po kami ulit lahat.
Yeah, what's her name? Yeah, basta she's banking on that na manalo sa re-election para may continuity. Pero medyo mahihirapan. They're also fearful na yung magiging senator judges pag nag-iba.
Yes.
Baka yung unang present na mga cases, yung cases and witnesses, baka hindi na ma-appreciate ng next batch pag karamihan sa kanila ay bago.
Kaya nga 'di ba may iba daw yung yung landscape
May iba
kapag
talaga, may iba talaga.
Next Congress talaga yung magta-try nitong impeachment complaint na to. Kaya gusto talaga nilalaban nila yung sinasabi ng Constitution, which is forthwith na umpisahan agad. Pero
That's right.
apparently 'di ba, yun na nga nilabasan ni Senator Jesus Cordero na July pa after ng SONA gagawin itong impeachment complaint.
The trial proper. All right, one lawmaker has presented two options to fight fake news, a government regulator or a digital council. Speaking on Sa Totoo Lang, Bataan 1st District Representative Geraldine Roman said the first option involves creating a regulatory body under the Department of Information and Communications Technology. However, she expressed a preference for the second option, a digital council led by content creators, experts, and academics to establish ethical standards and self-regulation in the industry. Roman believes this approach would be more effective in improving content creation and combating misinformation.
Kumbaga isa itong konseho na galing din po sa sektor, dun sa mga stakeholders. Matanong po ninyo, anong gagawin ng Digital Council of the Philippines? Gagawa po sila ng kanilang sariling Code of Conduct and Code of Ethics para po meron silang mga pamantayan. Sa hanay nila ay meron silang mga limitasyon at meron silang mga patakarang susundin.
Meanwhile, the ICT spokesperson Aboy Paraiso bared new measures to fight fake news online. He revealed partnerships with social media platforms to label AI-generated content and enhance fact-checking efforts. The ICT also plans to utilize a system to monitor social media trends and detect misinformation.
What we do now in government is forge a partnership and a collaboration with the social media platforms. We also are now looking into the fact-checking and debunking entities.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm with
It's really a big problem
Oo.
yung fake news, misinformation at disinformation.
Actually, more than, actually, isa lang yan. Pero there are several kinds of fake news. Meron yung tinatawag satire, fake news, or parody.
Pwede.
Which is meme-based. You don't intend to destroy somebody or create a lie, but you're making a joke out of something. Ang problema nito, naniniwala ang mga tao, sometimes totoo yan at nakakasira ng imahe. Meron din yung tinatawag na clickbait news, yung iba ang headline at picture sa laman ng content mo. Ang magiging problema dito is, nakikita ko yung sa first option is regulation from the government standpoint.
Yan eh.
That's a little
Oo.
scary because kung ano yung interpretation nila on fake news.
Totoo
Mas
yun.
gusto ko yung kay Kong Roman. Very similar to what we have in media as the KBP, may self-regulation.
Kaya nga sinasabi nga, most journalists sinasabi nila, if you're going to create a regulating body, wag mong i-include ang government. Kasi mahirap
Never.
yan eh. Kasi ever since, noon pa, talagang ang government would always try, diba, to tell media outlets kung anong gusto nilang sabihin. That's why yung sinasabi nila during the hearing ng TRICOM, hearing on fake news, nung nangyari, nung nag-attend yung mga vloggers doon, na mostly mga pro-Duterte, sinasabi nila na parang naging double-edged sword yung hearing. Although sabi nga nila, maganda na na-expose yung mga vloggers na alam natin na disinformation peddlers or misinformation peddlers. Pero yun nga, parang ang nangyayari doon, may blur yung line na nag-hold accountable doon sa mga disinformation peddlers and doon sa freedom of expression.
Actually, there's provisions already in the Constitution and in the law to penalize or medyo criminalize yung to peddle not only online news per se,
Yeah.
but there's cyber libel, there's libel, di ba? So if you tell a lie, whether it's on TV or it's on social media, pwede naman idaan through that. Kaya gusto ko yung suggestion na gumawa na lang ng self-regulating council like KBP. It's because like in the KBP, ang sistema is reward and punishment system. Kung maganda ang performance ng isang media entity o isang miyembro, meron siyang certain reward system. May perks siya as being a member of KBP. Ganon din dapat sa regulatory council nitong for social media content creators, di ba? If maganda ang standing mo, may reward system ka.
Mahirap din kasi yung yung ang tawag dito, yung parang gagawing MTRCB kasi, di ba, like, nangyayari din before sa mga examples na kunyari na nakikita ng MTRCB. May mga differences kasi sa religion, 'di ba? Sa ibang opinion na hindi nagkakatugma. Kaya medyo may thin line between that yung mga sinasabi ko, yung mga disinformation peddlers at saka holding accountable talaga doon sa mga gumagawa ng mga fake news, disinformation.
Basta yung
Pero dito talaga, we really recognize na talagang laganap ang fake news, ang mga misinformation at disinformation na kailangan gawa ng paraan para matigil na.
Oo, because it's becoming to be so violent already on the social media stratosphere.
Oo.
Dami-dami nagpapatayan. Relationships are broken, friendships are destroyed, di ba? So, we should find a way to calm things down.
Totoo.
Ika nga. Alright.
Alright, we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Okay, so we were talking about fake news,
Yes,
disinformation and misinformation. To get insights about this, we have Movement Against Disinformation convener, Attorney Tony Lavinia, on the show, joining us via Zoom. Good morning and thanks for joining us. Hello po.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Attorney.
Yes, Attorney, I don't if you heard yung proposal ni Congressman Geraldine Roman, dalawa yon. The first one was yung of course yung magkakaroon ng government regulation, and the second one would be to establish something similar to the KBP. Ano po ang mga thoughts nyo on these?
First, sabihin natin disinformation is a plague on society. It's really bad. And it's so bad now, no? Worst ever tayo ngayon. Worse than even the elections of 2020. Of 2020, worse than the elections of 2022. And worse even the elections of 2016, no? Existential kasi ito, survival ng Duterte family. So talagang grabe yung networks of disinformation na so it's bad. But wag naman tayo mag-overreact na we will pass laws that will limit freedom of speech and freedom of the press. Hindi naman absolute yun, di ba? Kung may clear danger that the state has the right to prevent, freedom of speech and freedom of the press can be regulated. So that's clear naman. But a law that defines disinformation and allows the government to define it, wag, di ba? Kahit kayo, pwede kayong ma-charge doon, di ba?
Right.
Alam nyo ba na di ba, yung alam natin sa institutional press, broadcasting and print, nagkakamali kayo di ba?
Right,
You do make mistakes, di ba? That is not disinformation, di ba? That's a mistake. And that's why you have editorial control, di ba? You have erratics because of that. Iba yung mga bloggers, iba yung mga individuals, no, 'di ba? Kasi wala naman silang editorial control, wala silang erratum, 'di ba? Na procedure, right to reply, 'di ba? Wala silang code of ethics, 'di ba? So I think may distinctions sa dalawa, but we don't want the government to have an overall, 'di ba, yung powers to stop any person and any media outfit to speak their minds, no? Now, itong kay Congressman Roman na Digital Media Council, di ba? Okay naman ang self-regulation, di ba? It works for KBP, I think. It's worked for Philippine Press Council. I used to be chair of that. Sa print media naman yan, yung right to reply sa print media, di ba? Ang challenge lang dito is individuals ito di ba? Sa KBP kasi mga businesses kayo, mga radio stations, mga television networks, di ba? So mas madaling ma-discipline, kung kailangan madaling ma-rein in, di ba? Kung atrocious talaga yung sinasabi ng broadcaster, di ba? Talagang pwede yun tigilin, di ba? KBP can actually cite that person. Na ganun din sa print media, if you don't give the right to reply to a person, di ba? Ano yun? Ito, iba yung individuals, no? So, medyo skeptical ako na nagkaroon sila ng self-regulation, di ba? In the first place, sino yung kasama? Paano ma-distinguish, di ba? Kung sino sila. I think ang priority natin, kung may batas tayo na bago, dalawa. Yung going after the networks of this information, not the individuals. Ito mga nasa sa screen ngayon ng mga vloggers, foot soldiers lang yan sila.
Right.
Hindi yan mga general sa disinformation war. They're pushing content that's given to them every day, every morning, maybe lunchtime, paggabi. They're pushing content. They make money out of that content that they push, no? So ang kailangan natin hanapin, sino yung mga nagpo-push na yon? Those are public relations practitioners.
Yeah.
Those are advertising agencies, di ba? Those are well-researched yan na by Jonathan Ong and other researchers na merong tentacles, may roots around these tentacles, di ba? Para putulin natin yung roots na yon, yun ang kailangan. Putulin mo yung tentacles, may bagong tentacle na lalabas, di ba? The other law we need is on social media platforms, di ba? Making them responsible. Yan, okay sa akin yon. Hindi freedom of speech. Kasi commercial yan, di ba?
Yeah.
Kumikita ang Facebook, TikTok, YouTube for every disinformation post that becomes viral, di ba? Bakit? When it becomes viral, people look at it, may advertisement, di ba?
Yes, that's right.
Yun nga, attorney, yung sinasabi nila kasi talaga na ang kailangan daw talaga imbisigan, which is you mentioned na rin talaga, yung mga nagbibigay nag-offer ng services ng mga PR agencies, ng mga, parang mga trolling, no? Good or bad yung ginagawa nila, masama pa rin kasi yun yung intent mag-troll at mag-ano ng disinformation.
Yun ang, I think ang isang kailangan gawin, kasi yung mga advertising agencies, public relations, meron naman silang meron din yung self-regulatory bodies, di ba? Sana they make this a priority, di ba? Professional ito, marketers ito. Di ba? Hindi ito mga ordinaryong tao. As I said, foot soldiers lang sila. May generals, di ba? And above the generals, may mga nagbabayad. That's the other thing. Follow the money. Kasi the money given to this is likely illegitimate. Galing sa corruption, di ba? Worse, galing sa ibang bayan, di ba? Sinasabi nila, China, for example. That can be proven kung totoo yan, di ba? But go after the money.
Right.
Follow the money.
Attorney, sinasabi nila na pag-create daw nitong mga governing body na to, yung Digital Council for the media, one thing is for sure, wag daw pong isama ang government official doon sa yung pagbuo ng council na yon. Would you agree on that po?
Well, kasi magiging regulatory body na siya, di ba? At best man, we should have a self-regulatory body, no? Pero problematic talaga yan, kasi lahat kasi tayo pwedeng maging ganun, di ba? So sino yung universe of people that can be part of this, di ba?
Yeah.
Or should be part of this? Every person that posts, di ba? Di ba yun ang dilemma natin sa social media? Kasi everyone can post, di ba? Kung konti lang ang followers mo, irrelevant what you post. You do not create any harm, di ba? Except red tagging. Yun, red tagging, kahit isa ka lang magpo-post ka, kahit 10 nakakita, immediate yung harm ng red tagging. Di ba?
Right.
Kaya dapat i-criminalize talaga yung red tagging. Not in violation ng freedom of speech kasi existential yung threats na binibigay ng red tagging, di ba?
Right.
So yun natin. I think that's what we have to figure out. And I think ang key doon, yung platforms.
That's right.
Wag yung individuals. Sa totoo lang, di ba, if you go after every individual that posts a disinformation or reposts disinformation, that's hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions, di ba? How will you punish them? How will you prosecute them, di ba?
Pero attorney, may mga nagsasabi po na like for example, can we then now impose stricter penalties and harsher penalties on the social media platforms itself so that they empowers them to police their ranks? In other words, mas magiging stricto sila. Kasi ngayon medyong they're not paying much attention. Oo, they do once in a while go after yung mga content creators, matataas ang followers. But yung mga smaller ones that have 50,000 to 100,000 followers, sometimes hindi nila pinapansin yan. So what do you think
Tinanggal
about
nga
that?
yung fact-checking feature dun sa Meta, di ba?
Oo
Recently.
nga, di ba? Well, sa US, sa atin meron pa, pero they're on the way to
To do that here.
removing that. That's why you have to hold them liable, di ba? For this. Kasi again, repeat ko lang, di ba? Kumikita sila sa disinformation. Kumikita sila at the expense of society, di ba? Because posting the truth versus posting an untruth, di ba? Mas maraming titingin sa untruth kasi mas controversial. Posting something nice about someone versus posting a hate post against someone, mas maraming titingin sa hate post.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
media platforms, they benefit from hate and they benefit from disinformation. So, i-punish natin sila. Pecuniary, di ba? And even close them down kung talagang matigas sila, di ba? Na hindi nila ititigil yung mga nagpo-post ng disinformation sa kanilang mga platforms.
I'm sure you were able to watch the recent TRICOM hearing. Kasi some would say that the House of Representatives might be walking a tightrope doon between accountability and freedom of expression. It was a double-edged sword. Although, in hindsight, na-expose daw yung mga vloggers na talagang peddlers ng disinformation. But what do you think about that hearing po?
That was interesting, no? Of course, I would like our legislators to always respect the resource persons. I've been resource persons many times, and I've been treated with respect. No, probably because I'm a professor. Many of the legislators are my students. You know?
Right.
So I'm nirerespeto naman ako. But I also want to say something to those resource persons, yung mga vloggers at bloggers, di ba? Na nandoon. You will only be treated with respect if you respect also the Congress. Which means you have to tell the truth. Huwag magpaligoy-ligoy.
That's
Huwag
right.
mag-justify, di ba? From the very beginning, cooperate, di ba? And alam niyo, some of them napilitan lang yung pumunta. Kasi they already went to the Supreme Court, hindi nag-issue ang TRO ng
Yeah.
Supreme Court. So kung hindi sila pumunta, hinuli na sila.
Contempt.
Di ba? They could have been already detained, di ba? At syempre, ayaw nila yan kasi every day na naka-detain sila, wala silang access sa gadget nila. Loss of income yon, di ba?
Yes,
I-repeat
that's right.
ko.
Oo.
This is not about freedom of speech for them. This is not about love of country for them. This is a business, di ba?
Yeah.
Kumikita sila for every post that they make.
Yes, Attorney, I'd like to ask you about yung definition of terms supposedly to create a fine line between fake news and freedom of expression. Si Attorney Trixie Cruz Angles brought up an issue about what may be gospel truth 10 to 15 to 20 or 100 years ago may not be the truth anymore today. So how do you...
Time-bound.
Yeah, so it's time-bound. So how do you then hold accountability daw? Baka naman kasi madaming madamay. Now, well, technically po, in hindsight, if you look at it, that is right, but is that an argument that can be made
it's
to
not right.
peddle?
It's not that. I'm a philosophy professor, di ba? Di ba? The truth does not change. What changes is the way we interpret what we thought truth was then, di ba? Pero hindi naman yan ang issue dito. Kasi you can have, tama din naman, you can have your own truth, you can have your own impressions, you can have your own views, di ba? Nobody's forced to agree on anything. But what we can agree on is you cannot say something harmful to fellow human beings and harmful to societies. Yan limit ng freedom of speech, di ba?
Okay.
I'm actually a free speech advocate, di ba? Because I've been a dissenter in many of our political issues, di ba?
That's right.
I have been red tag, I have been attacked. Government also has accused me sometimes to different administration. Sometimes I'm also in the government, di ba? So, ano naman ako, I've experienced that, and I really stand by every person's right to speak and right of expression. Having said that, you cannot do that creating a clear and present danger to people. Yan ang standard natin. Di ba? So, if you have 20 followers, di ba? And you post untrue thing, di ba? That doesn't create any harm, di ba? Lalo mga pamilya mo lang, madali siya ma-check, di ba? Na ano. But if you have 50,000 followers, kahit 50,000, 200,000 followers, di ba? And sasabihin mo na, nandun na lahat ng police, nag-resign na ang mga police, di ba? May TRO na yung Supreme Court, di ba?
Wala
Punta na
naman.
talaga sa Villamor. That creates harm to society.
Right.
Hindi yun, di ba?
Right.
You can be prosecuted for that. But don't need new laws. Yun lang sinasabi ko. We don't need new laws. That's why NBI is investigating now because there's enough laws. May cybercrime law, may libel, may laws on actually on in disinformation na nandun pa noon pa. Di ba? It's not like we need new laws to do that.
Marami na daw tayong mga batas. Implementation lang ang kulang eh.
Yes, and doing it properly, di ba, na hindi political yung implementation. Yun ang kasi na hindi political ang implementation ng batas, di ba? Pero may ang gap lang natin yung social media at yung financing, di ba? ng fake news o ng disinformation. Hindi ko tinatawag fake news kasi hindi siya news eh.
Yes.
Di ba? Definition, hindi siya news eh. Habulin natin saan nanggaling ang pera, habulin natin sino ang mga masterminds nito, di ba? At habulin natin yung mga social media platforms.
Yun.
Huwag yung individuals. Para sa akin, madaling ibuli ang individuals eh. Which was
Parang
unfortunately
find
done.
the root cause, ika nga.
Yeah.
Oo.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tentacles lang yun sila. Kahit tanggalin natin lahat sila, mapatahimik natin sila, may papalit sa kanila.
Hanapin natin
Kasi may
yung-
pera.
Oo.
May
At-
pera behind it.
So, attorney, in essence nga, kasi freedom of expression comes with responsibility talaga. Siguro na lang po, lastly, attorney, paano po ba natin may educate talaga yung public regarding disinformation beyond regulatory or council-based solutions?
Ito talaga, ground war ito eh. So, una itong ginagawa nyo, maganda ito, no? I mean, at pang-sampung interview ko na kayo in 2 days, just on this, no? Kasi naging, di ba, dati kasi tungkol ito sa kay Duterte, di ba? At Marcos. Which is wrong actually. This is not about Duterte and Marcos. This is about the victims of Duterte against Duterte, di
Correct,
ba?
yes.
But naging fight siya ngayon over this information kasi grabe ang nangyayari on the ground. So you have to go on the ground, di ba? Nananawagan ako sa mga kayo media, okay yung ginagawa nyo. No? I actually, parang yung institutional media, radio, TV, print, nag-rise up to the occasion finally, di ba? Didn't do that some election period, but now finally, no, kasi naging existential din sa inyo kasi tinitira kayo, di ba? ng mga disinformation peddlers. So, but on the ground, importante. So, kung nananawagan actually ako sa mga institutions na merong on the ground, halimbawa, Catholic Church, di ba, Protestant churches, di ba? Pag-uusapan ito sa mga parishes, di ba? Pag-usapan ito sa mga simbahan. Lumabas tayo, di ba? To talk about it. Kasi otherwise, ang nakikita ng mga tao ay disinformation sa kanilang mga screen, di ba? Sa kanilang mga podcast. Kita nila. And therefore, matatalo talaga ang katotohanan dito. Yun yung ano doon, di ba? Nakakalungkot kasi this is such a big victory for me, for justice, na nandun si Duterte sa International Criminal Court. Relevant si Marcos dito. Siya lang yung huling pitik, di ba? The real heroes here are the families na nagsampa ng kaso, humingi ng katarungan, kahit na in power pa si Duterte from the very beginning. Hindi sila nagpatakot, di ba? Kayo ang real heroes, di ba? Sa Channel 5 may kasama doon. Kayo ang nag-cover ng war against drugs, lalo na sa first 2 years, di ba? Na hindi siya makakalusot doon kasi maraming resibo. ng mga ano. So yun ang mga
Alright.
heroes. Now, this information is changing that. Kawawa naman si tatay natin, di ba? Sa totoo lang, wala namang namatay. O 63 lang o 43 lang yung namatay. Hindi yung totoo ha. 43 lang yung ipaproven but representative lang yung 43 ng thousands.
Alright. Okay, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. Thank you so much. That was a Movement Against Disinformation Convener, Attorney Tony Lavinia. Thank you po for your time again.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, the Department of Transportation called on Manibela to discuss their concerns through constructive and open dialogue. The agency assured that it is open to suggestions and feedback on improving and making the public transport modernization program more inclusive, benefiting not just commuters but also operators and drivers. Meanwhile, Manibela Chairman Mar Valbuena confirmed that they have been invited to a dialogue with Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon on Friday. The Manibela is protesting alleged irregularities in the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board's consolidation data under the Public Transport Modernization Program. The Ombudsman has ordered the preventive suspension of Marikina City Mayor Marcy Teodoro and other City Hall officials. This is over the alleged misuse of 130 million pesos in public funds. The Ombudsman cited strong evidence of grave misconduct and irregular expenditures from PhilHealth funds on non-health related items. Teodoro, however, claimed the move was politically motivated and aimed at derailing his campaign for Marikina 1st District Representative. He vowed to fight the charges, calling them a calculated political attack just days before the official campaign period. The officials are placed under preventive suspension without pay until the investigation concludes, but for no more than 6 months.
The Justice Department warns Timor-Leste that refusing to extradite expelled lawmaker Arnie Teves could hurt its ASEAN membership application. DOJ Secretary Crispin Remulla emphasized that the Philippines, as a founding member of ASEAN, expects Timor-Leste to cooperate and comply with international standards. He said the issue is simple, since Teves no longer holds a valid passport and should be deported immediately. Remulla also criticized Timor-Leste's decision to block the extradition over human rights concerns, saying the Philippines has a functioning justice system. The government is preparing a motion for reconsideration to push for the former lawmaker's return. Don't go away because we're not done yet. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
The United States is reportedly preparing to deploy a second Typhoon missile system in the Indo-Pacific. While not yet confirmed, Philippine officials say they are open to hosting it. Here's the report.
U.S.-based news site Defense News suggests that the U.S. Army is preparing to deploy a second Typhoon missile battery, expected to be stationed in Hawaii this year. This comes following Washington's deployment of its first Typhoon mid-range capability missile system to the Philippines nearly a year ago. To this day, it remains in an undisclosed location in Luzon. Although there is no confirmation yet on whether the second Typhoon missile launchers will eventually be deployed again to the Philippines, the armed forces of the Philippines have already said that they are open to accepting them.
The more, the merrier, no? So the more assets that we have, the more also that we are able to train more personnel on our part. So, tinatanggap po natin ito willingly.
The Typhoon missile system has a range of 500 to 2,000 kilometers, capable of striking targets in the South China Sea. This is why China has repeatedly criticized the deployment of U.S. missiles in the Philippines, claiming that it provokes conflict.
The defense posture of the Republic of the Philippines is not designed against any other country. It is an action of a sovereign state. Other countries, especially Chinese Communist Party, has not been abiding by international law. They have been disrupting the region.
For international affairs analyst Renato De Castro, the continued strengthening of the Philippines' defense with the help of the United States is a major advantage. He also said the country should not be influenced by China's reaction.
We should never give China a veto when it comes to our defense policy.
News 5 has attempted to get a statement from the U.S. Embassy in Manila regarding this issue, but they refused to provide details on any military operations.
The defense team of former President Rodrigo Duterte has received details of the first set of evidence in the crimes against humanity case filed against him at the International Criminal Court. Jovi Francisco with the story.
Despite former President Rodrigo Duterte's opinion about the charges he is facing before the International Criminal Court, the proceedings of the Crimes Against Humanity case are definitely underway. Days after the ICC Pretrial Chamber 1 ordered the prosecution and defense teams to disclose evidence and list down the number of witnesses on or before April 4 and 11, the ICC posted an update on its website pertaining to the situation in the case of the prosecutor versus Rodrigo Roa Duterte. It appears that the prosecution panel already submitted 181 items related to the disclosure of evidence, most of which are confidential in nature, but can be disclosed to the defense panel. The update was dated March 24, Monday. Meanwhile, the Vice President recently gave updates about the formation of her father's legal team. Back home in the Philippines, the children of the former president argued that the petitions they filed seeking to bring their father home are not moot and academic. But according to Attorney Gilbert Andres, the petitioners should be reminded that the ICC already publicly declared that Duterte is now under its custody. Attorney Cristina Conti wishes the Duterte children to follow their sister Sarah's lead, move on, and engage the ICC directly. Reporting from The Hague, Netherlands, Jovi Francisco. We are One News.
The Department of Health has reported a surge in measles cases in Metro Manila. As of March 15, measles cases has climbed to 368, more than 3 times the 117 cases recorded during the same period last year. Many of those infected did not receive complete vaccine doses. DOH Metro Manila Regional Director Dr. Lester Tan pointed to vaccine hesitancy as a key factor, noting that some parents fear side effects or lack awareness of the vaccine's benefits. Under the Bakunahan sa Purok ni Juan, a measles catch-up immunization activity, the DOH plans to vaccinate 435,576 children in Metro Manila alone. Nearly 50,000 have already received their shots.
Now, to further discuss that, we have infectious disease expert Dr. Ronchin Solante joining us here via Zoom. Good morning, Doc. Thanks for joining us again.
Good morning, Angela, and good morning, Angelo.
Doc, aside po from Metro Manila, may iba pa po bang mga lugar sa ating bansa na meron pong pagtaas ng kaso ng measles?
So far ngayon, Angela, ang nakikitaan pa lang, based on the surveillance data ngayon, sa Metro Manila pa lang, no? But itong mga kaso namin ngayon sa San Lazaro, no? We have reported already from January to March. We already have like 79 cases of measles. And, there are also those, majority pa rin mga bata, no? But some of them are not just in Metro Manila, ha? Galing to iba ng mga probinsya, kagaya ng Bulacan, no? Cavite, and the other nearby provinces, no? Kasi mas gusto naman talaga nila pumupunta dito sa Manila, no? Although majority dito are coming from the National Capital Region, pero I cannot discount the possibility that this is also occurring. Siguro nationwide din to, no? Kasi lang ang nakikita lang natin magandang surveillance dito sa Manila, but I believe hindi lang to sa Manila, it could also be in other regions.
Doc, well, matagal na itong measles sa atin, no?
Right.
And until now, it's still persistent. But how do we really determine as an individual if may measles nga ako? Because sometimes mistaken for an allergy, sometimes mistaken for something else, diba? So ano yung pinaka-basic na makikita ko na, oops, may measles ata ako?
Well, Angelo, no? Bigyan lang kita ng example, no? May mga adult kaming nagka-measles, 24 years old, 30 years old, 32, no? And sometimes, ang akala lang talaga, tama ka, no? Allergic reaction lang yan. But when you get to see them, no? Ang unang clinical manifestation yan, may lagnat yan, no? 2 to 3 days before the appearance of the rashes, no?
Okay.
And then, lalabas na yung mga rashes, mag-uumpisa yan dito sa noo, pababa yan, hanggang dito sa tiyan, pag dumadami na yan, hanggang sa paa. And usually, pag dumarating na yan sa paa, nawawala din yung lagnat, no? Tapos, walang ganang kumain, masakit ang ulo, masakit ang katawan. compared to an allergic reaction, ang allergic reaction is really makating-makati at wala kang ibang nararamdaman. While this one is meron kang other symptoms na talagang tukoy doon sa mga tinatawag natin na mga systemic viral infection.
Yan, Doc, ang isang critical pa dito is the moment you think and you mataas ang pakiramdam mo na may measles ka, ano ang next move mo? Do you go then to a hospital or a clinic na, kasi kung hindi ka careful, baka makahawa ka ng iba eh. Number two, paano yun, Doc, kung hindi ka sure kung nagkaroon ka ng vaccine nung bata ka?
Okay, so yung unang tanong mo, kadalasan sa measles kasi, especially sa mga adult, it usually are uncomplicated, no? So ibig sabihin, pupunta ka lang ng hospital pag masakit na yung ulo mo, sumasakit yung tiyan. So meron din tayong tinatawag mga warning signs, no? Or yung nagsuka. So kailangan mo pumunta kasi merong ganung mga complications ang measles na pwedeng pupunta rin sa brain, pwede ka rin ang measles pneumonia. Sa bata kasi, mas mataas ang severity dahil bata sila. Common sa kanila yung measles pneumonia. Kaya ang bata, para sa akin, lahat ng bata pagka nagka-measles, dadalhin ka agad sa center or sa hospital para lang masuri at titingnan kung wala bang mga signs na severe measles sila. Tapos yung pangalawa mo, Angelo, yung bakuna, no?
Yeah.
Now, itong mga majority of those children na nagka-measles, wala talagang mga bakuna yan or hindi na kumpleto yung dose ng bakuna. Sa mga adult naman, maski bakunado ka na doon ng pagkabata mo, it doesn't also protect you 100%, no? But chances are, mas less ang chance na kung nakompleto mo yung bakuna mo nung bata ka, na magka-measles ka.
Doc, could you tell us more about itong tinatawag na bakunahan sa purok ni Juan? How will this effectively address the problem na talagang tumataas po yung cases po ngayon ng measles natin, knowing na isa po sa key factors dito yung hesitancy ng mga magulang na all of a sudden, dati naman may mga nagpapavaccine na ng measles eh. Then all of a sudden ngayon may hesitancy na sila ulit.
Yes, malaking bagay itong bakunahan ng Department of Health, yung catch-up vaccination. Ito yung vaccination program na kung sa tugmang edad hindi ka nabakunahan, pwede ka pa rin mabakunahan late stage ng pagkabata mo. No? So ibig sabihin, 2 years old and below or 3 years old, hindi ka nabakunahan, tapos ngayon ka lang na meron tayong awareness sa bakuna, pwede pa rin yan. Para naman ma-increase natin na hindi ka magka-measles because once you have this clustering of cases of measles, tapos maski 7 years old ka, 8 years old ka, tapos wala kang bakuna, pwede ka pa rin magka-measles at pwede rin complication. Now, on the part of the vaccine hesitancy, at meron akong dito, ang tingin ko dito, this is something of a positive dahil tumataas yung information awareness natin, education sa bakuna, di ba? Naalala mo yung COVID, naalala mo yung mga influenza vaccine. Ang mga nanay ngayon, very aware na sila sa mga bakuna. Now, at the end of that awareness, nakikita din nila yung mga, alam mo naman, itong mga tao, may mga, ang bakuna, ganito, may mga bad effect, no? So, nandun pa rin yan sa kaisipan nila yung experience with COVID, experience with election. So, this is a challenge, no? But for me, kung ako yung Department of Health, I will address this positively by, again, giving a good information, educating at the community level para naman ma-edukado because every year we have new generations of mothers na hindi naman alam nila na ganun kataas yung awareness nila about bakuna. So I mean, this is something good but we need to ramp up our activity in terms of educating and ipakita talaga ano ba ang benepisyo ng bakuna. And this is the benefit of the vaccine. It will save life, it will protect you against the complications of measles.
At saka ito po binibigay po may mga libreng measles na bakuna po sa mga di ba? Mga barangay health centers.
Yes, Angela, pag bakuna galing sa Department of Health sa mga barangay health center, libre talaga yan. Walang bayad yan.
Siguro na lang po advice po sa mga magulang and of course para po maiwasan din po na kumalat pa ang measles po.
Yes, so this is something na lahat ng mga magulang bigyan natin ng importansya ang mga bakuna. Hindi lang measles vaccine, lahat ng mga bakuna na binibigay sa health center, dapat bakunahan natin yung mga bata kasi sila yung vulnerable population. Ayaw nating magkakomplikasyon yan, ayaw nating magiging madala sa hospital. So, ang bakuna ay libre, ito will save lives. So, inanyahan natin lahat ng mga mothers please bring your children, especially yung mga hindi pa nabakunahan. There is a catch-up vaccination program ng DOH. Dalhin natin sila doon sa mga center.
All right, thank you for that. Infectious disease expert, Dr. Rontjean Solante.
Thank you.
And, what's today? Wednesday?
Yes.
Oh wow, midweek na po. And,
By Friday, that's 28, tama ba?
Oh.
Yeah, by Friday, 28, official campaign starts na ng
and
local
birthday
elections.
ni ano? FPRRD, no? 80th birthday ni FPRRD. And before we let you go, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote. Without action, the best intentions in the world are nothing more than that, intentions. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angelo Castro.
And I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.